Good afternoon, everyone. I know we're still waiting for some people, but I've been given the thumbs up to get us started. So if you have a chance to find a seat, and I am a teacher, so please do not sit in the back. Come to the front because people in the front tend to get A's. I always sit in the front, not because I wanted to get A's, but because I'm short, and I know someone taller than me is going to sit in front of me, so I can see. So, well, good afternoon again. I am so delighted to be here to welcome all of you to the School of Continuing Education at UWM, and also to this amazing event, Black Businesses Through the Years, a Roadmap for Success. As we gather here during Black History Month, we celebrate not only the remarkable contributions of Black entrepreneurs in our community, but also the rich tapestry of history that has shaped their journeys. I'm so delighted to be here. My name is Chia Vang. I am the Vice Chancellor for Community Empowerment and Institutional Inclusivity at UW-Milwaukee, also a professor of history. So really happy to be here. I oversee the division at UWM that is charged with really fostering inclusion for all campus members, and then also fostering a variety of activities and resources to help students and employees reach their full potential. So at UWM, we recognize that our strength lies in our community. We are deeply committed to fostering partnerships that uplift and empower our community and its businesses. And we are excited to bring this event to you today. But before we begin, I'd like to express my sincerest gratitude to a few individuals and organizations who made today possible. First, please join me in thanking Nancy Nelson, a colleague who is the Deputy Provost for the School of Continuing Education, and the entire School of Continuing Education staff. Nancy and team, where are you? Would you stand so that we can thank you? Thank you so much. And we also wish to recognize the Tommy G. Thompson Center for Public Leadership and its staff, Alex, Ruth, and Lily, who their support has meant that I've been involved in a number of projects that they support. Now I feel like I want to be a friend because they're so amazing. They do great work to support us. So thank you for the generous grant, which has been instrumental in bringing this event to fruition. If you don't already know, the Tommy Thompson Center for Public Leadership was established to follow in the footsteps of Governor Tommy Thompson, who proudly worked with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to achieve the public good. The Thompson Center seeks to carry on Governor Thompson's legacy by informing and inspiring current and future public leaders, fostering leadership skills, and promoting effective public leadership. They work to further these goals by offering public events, funding research and scholarship, honoring exemplary public leaders with their Distinguished Public Leadership Award, and really conducting other activities throughout the UW campuses. So really amazing work. All of their events are free to the public, free and open to the public. If you don't already know, please feel free to visit their website for more information. And Ruth just told me that the grant applications are going to be open soon for new opportunities to receive support. But now it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Ray Allen, President of Specialized Business Services, a retail and marketing consulting firm that co-owns retail stores at the Dane County Airport in partnership with Paradis LaGuardia, Inc. Ray Allen has a diverse background, and I'm so amazed. As a government administrator, entrepreneur, journalist, and a social change advocate. He has held appointed and cabinet level positions under 4 Wisconsin governors, including Secretary of the Department of Workforce Development, the state's Labor Department, and Department of Financial Institutions, where he was the first African American to oversee the Wisconsin's financial industry. Previously, Ray served as president and CEO of Wisconsin's only African American owned financial institution, Columbia Savings and Loan Association in Milwaukee. He currently serves on the board of directors of Incredible Bank, a national bank based in Wausau, Wisconsin. Ray remains active in philanthropic and community focused initiatives in Wisconsin and in Mississippi, warmer weather than today. Ray earned his undergraduate degree in journalism from UW-Madison, MS in management degree from Cardinal Stritch. He is the recipient of numerous awards, including Outstanding Alumni of Color Award and a Distinguished Service Award from UW-Madison. He is also a member of the Madison Black Chamber Hall of Fame and has served as chair of the Madison Technical College Board and served 9 years on the Madison Metropolitan School Board. He is, however, a native of Milwaukee. Ray and his wife Linda share time between Tupelo, Mississippi, and Madison, Wisconsin. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, and I guess now you all know that I have a hard time keeping a job, right? Thank you, Vice Chancellor Bang. You know, this is a wonderful celebration, and thank you all for coming out in the chilly weather. It wouldn't be Black History Month without a little history. It's been said you cannot know where you are going until you know where you've been. So I'm really pleased today to introduce Mr. Claiborne Benson, who is a photographer, a historian, and military veteran with nearly 40 years of experience at WTMJ. He studied photography at MATC and later attended military photography school. Mr. Benson earned a Bachelor of Arts in Film from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee while working full-time. And he produced the award-winning documentary, Black Communities, which explores African-American housing, migration, and trade skills. This project inspired him to establish the Wisconsin Black Historical Society Museum in 1987, and which preserve history and culture of the African American in Wisconsin. The museum offers community programs and serves as a local resource, especially for children. An expert in genealogy, particularly in South Carolina, Benson teaches classes to help others understand their roots. His work has taken him globally from Arizona to various countries in Europe, West Africa, and beyond. Father to, he has received numerous awards for his contributions to photography and historical preservation. Mr. Benson? Thank you. And one other note that I want to, just as Mr. Benson comes up, is that I'd like to share with you that Cheryl Ganitso, I think I pronounced that right, is here from Meaningful Marks, and she will be capturing all this on video and recording it, and some of it will appear on the screen. So thank you, Cheryl, wherever you are. There you are.
Thank you. Thank you very much. He didn't mention I just graduated with my master's in history from University of Wisconsin. I'm so proud of that, coming from my elementary teacher said there's some hope for all of us. If I can graduate with a master's, I assure you, all of us can graduate, because it clearly is a miracle. God blessings is what it is, and so I'm more than happy. I wanted to talk a little bit about the accomplishments of our people, both in the area political and businesses over the course of the years. And starting with the state's earliest history, I'm going to start with the Martins, Zebedee and Lena Martin, who had 6 grocery stores. They were the mainstay of food for our African-American community for many years, and they're very, very important. So they had a line of vegetables in which they sold, like Jewel, and they had as many as 30 employees, and they were very, very important to this community for the tenure in which they served many years. more than 30 years, and so that they were very essential to this community in terms of providing food and nourishment. And he was a tremendous businessman on the way. And so, do I move this from next to? And we're going to cover a number of services. So the question to you are, what is a man doing with a show there? He is harvesting lead. And the question is there slavery in Wisconsin, given that it's a northern state? And the answer is yes. There is slavery in the state of Wisconsin. In the western part of the state, southwestern part of the state, lead is harvested, and bullets, from the Civil War all the way through Vietnam War, lead is harvested. It's a very tedious job. And even when 1860 slavery is over in Wisconsin, because it gradually peters out, the people, African Americans, stayed in that area, the western part of the state, the southwestern part of that state. In the northern part, there's slavery as well, a different kind of industry, lumber industry. And so that, so they would harvest the lead and they would take it, send it down the Mississippi River. And then this is the Bunga, Pierre Bunga. It's 3 generations of them. Pierre Bunga and his sons harvest lumber. They would send that lumber down the Mississippi River and take it to the markets to build homes. And so the Bungas were significant and very important. You don't hear a lot about the Bungas because they worked out of Minnesota primarily, but they were in Wisconsin as they made their way. And his son was the administrative assistant for our governor in the 1870s and 1880s. They rose from being enslaved people to becoming assistants to the governor. This is Joshua Glover. Now, most of you have heard about Joshua Glover, I'm certain. He is a runaway slave from St. Louis. He makes his way to Racine, Wisconsin. He hides out. Now, he does this in 1852, and he's discovered in 1854 and arrested. But the real story about Joshua Glover starts in 1850, when the North is upset with the South and the South is upset with the North. What is the South doing? The South is expanding slavery to the West. They're building and putting new plantations in the West, Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. What is the North doing? The North is helping runaways make their way to Canada. Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, and all of the northern states, and that they're doing actively. And so the South says, stop it. Clearly is marked in the United States Constitution through the Fugitive Slave Law. You cannot help runaways make their way to Canada. But also clearly in the Constitution it says slavery can only exist in these designated states. Now, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas, you know, the southern states, the rebellious states. And so, again, both of them are violating the Constitution. Glover is arrested in Milwaukee. He is at Cathedral Square, and the books say 5,000 people broke him out of jail. In truth, only 500. But that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. 500 people. And then that says something to those abolitionists and those people. And we call this Black history, but in truth, much of what I'm talking about is white people. White people making a decision that this is a law that they were not going to obey. Those 500 people are white people. And the idea that they're going to break him out of jail anyway is a white decision, mostly coming from the city of Waukesha. Waukesha is like the hub of the Underground Railroad and its activities. It's Waukesha that makes this decision, and it brings a whole flood of people from Racine and Burlington and other southeastern communities come out to break Glover out of jail, and they do break. Much like Paul Revere, as he's moving through the communities, the British are coming, the British are coming. So are Sherman Booth and all those abolitionists who see that this is a violation, not of Joshua Glover's rights, but of their rights. You hear what I'm saying? Their rights, and so that they clearly make a decision to break him out of jail. Now, I wouldn't be making a big deal of this if this was just a simple local issue and nobody had anything to say about it. But it's a violation of the United States Constitution. That's what it is. Henry Clay and John Calhoun gets together in 1850, and they negotiate the Constitution. They say, stop helping runaways make their way to Canada. They say, stop expanding to the west, to Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. And what do? They continue. Both do it. Both do it. The North says, we're not going to stop helping runaways make their way to Canada. They set up networks. Waukesha is the regional capital for it. So just come down the river of Fox River and look off to the east. Look at all those church steeples along the side of the river. That is where they head out at. Clearly, it's Waukesha that had that feeling of that they're going to fight against us. And so, again, that's a very important issue to Wisconsin, and it's a national issue. The national issue is that the Civil War was clearly to follow, and they didn't want to stop. 700,000 men and women lost their lives as a result of it. They fought for, and they began to forget the reason why they were fighting. They fought, and people died. Again, African Americans are settling in the western part of the state. They're coming from various cities throughout, and they're settling in the western part. They saw themselves as free and equal people. Many of them enlisted in the Civil War. They were soldiers in the Civil War. Mr. Green was a veteran in the Civil War, highly revered and respected. Totally excellent farmer, and all of his citizens, all of the citizens in that area, Pleasant Ridge and Fur Corners, all of them liked the Greens. His daughter became the first African American teacher to teach in the Milwaukee area. African Americans came to the state of Wisconsin. So did African Americans enlist in the service in the state of Wisconsin? And they did. There was the 29th F Company was the largest unit. They were roughly 350 African American unit people who were part of the 29th F Company, and they had their big battle in Virginia, and they weren't successful, but nonetheless they fought, and they were all over the state of Wisconsin. Every unit, there were many units, most of them were white, of course, but many of the units in the state of Wisconsin had black soldiers in it. They weren't fighting soldiers. Only the 29th F Company was a fighting unit. But the other units had support jobs, like cleaning latrines, like burying people, like cooking, cleaning houses or tents, all of those kinds of support jobs, which African Americans did. And so, yes, there were. And the largest and the highest ranked African American was a John Jefferson. John Jefferson was the grandson of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. He lived in the Madison area. Him and his father liked President Madison, and so that they picked a city with the name of Madison, and they moved to Madison. He enlisted as a second lieutenant and became a full-blood colonel and commanded the 8th Wisconsin. Wounded twice, and active at the Battle of Vicksburg, and commanded the unit out in that area. John Jefferson is his name. This is L.G. Shivers. L.G. Shivers was a farmer in the western part of it, near the Dalles and Hillsborough area. They called it the Cheyenne Valley. L.G. Shivers convinced his colleagues and friends and other farmers that they ought to build round barns. You've all heard of round barns, maybe not seen very many of them, but round barns were very active. They built 19 round barns, and all of these are white citizens, and he convinced them all to build round barns. He felt that, now he didn't invent them, but he was innovative. He was a well-read person. He had electricity. He had running water, 1920s. Even when there was a time in which electricity and running water was not suited for normal farmers, he had them. And he could fix almost any farm piece of equipment, and he encouraged and taught his other colleagues and friends to build and to fix farm equipment. Algie Shivers was his name. Again, he lived in the Cheyenne Valley. That's in the Dalles area, the western part of the state. This is William T. Green. William T. Green passed the first civil rights bill. And that bill, 1895, said that African Americans had a right to go into any grocery store, any drugstore, any public facility. African Americans had to. Now, his law didn't have any teeth to it. People could not be fined or put in jail if they denied that, but the law clearly said, it's called the Public Accommodation Law. And William T. Green, actually, he was a lawyer, one of the first lawyers in the state of Wisconsin, African-American lawyers in the state of Wisconsin. This is Miss Parsons, Lucy Parsons. And Lucy married a Confederate soldier in Alabama. She moved to Chicago, and her husband was very active in the Haymarket riot down in Chicago, where there was 6 people shot and killed as part of that. And their struggle was a labor struggle. She was a labor activist, and she brought that concept here to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, lived in Waukesha for a period of time. Lucy, when her husband died, kept the fight for the 40-hour work week. That was their struggle. Now, all of us enjoy 40-hour work weeks, don't we? We do enjoy it, so we can spend time with our families. Those men and women, out the course of their lives in Wisconsin during that period of time, did not enjoy the 40-hour work week, and so thus the fight to get 40-hour work week was an ongoing fight. Starting from the 1885s all the way through 1920s, the 40-hour work week was a major issue before the industry, and thus Lucy gets it. Now, she is an African American, but she wouldn't allow people to identify who she was. Meaning, you could obviously see that she was a person of color, but she would not let you put her in a context. She said, I am who I am. And she continued that fight. There was a riot in Milwaukee, Illinois Steel Company, down by the lakefront, just going into the area of Bayview, you know, that road going up into Bayview area, some of you may know. Just on the opposite side, there's a big sign there that says, this is the Bayview riot, just down in that valley where the Navy Coast Guard station is down there. That's where Illinois Steel Company and the businesses were. 6 people lost their lives there as well. So there's a major riot. That's a big issue of people having the right to vote. Not the right to vote, but that's a big issue of people having the 40-hour work week, and she is the hero of that on a national perspective. Very good. This is John Slaughter. John Slaughter is from Virginia. Now, he is the businessman. John Slaughter and his partner owned in what they call the Little Africa area, that is Wells Street. Now, it doesn't look like that today. And in the time in which we're talking about, 1920s, 1930s, it was swamp land. It was land that nobody else wanted, and they built it up, and they put their businesses. It was taverns and saloons, hotels, restaurants, all of that. This is Wells Street, from 2nd Street or 3rd Street to the west, all the way up to 6th Street. That was a nightclub area. That's where you could get you a prostitute, you could gamble, you get all the drink you want. Wells Street. It called it Little Africa. That was the official name for it. And John Slaughter was a businessman. He owned so much. He owned car washes. He owned hotels. He owned services like laundry services. And he would invest in various businesses and encourage people to start these various businesses, as well as he had his own businesses. He was the richest, said to be the richest man. I can't count his money, but He was said to be the richest man in Wisconsin during that period of time. He could not read or write. He made a decision to go to Chicago and to buy a whole, maybe 20 buildings in downtown Chicago in the Loop. And he signed the contract and owned all of these buildings. And the previous owner of those buildings said, now you've owned these buildings for a period of time, we'd like to have our land back. He lost all of his investment in those homes in which he purchased in downtown Chicago. He had planned to move to Chicago, obviously, and continue his business there, and he lost all of it. So John Slaughter is his name. This is Marcus Garvey. I'm sure that many of you recognize. I got 10 minutes. Okay, I got to hurry up. Man, isn't that something? Can you compress history in this short period of time? Forgive me, please. Marcus Garvey comes to Milwaukee in 1921. He is supporting the Black Cross nurses. Black Cross nurses are important. Black Cross nurses comes at a time where tuberculosis, much like COVID that we experienced in the last 5 years, tuberculosis was a major disease. Now, the Urban League had clinics and would bring people in. I got to cut this short. I apologize. The Black Cross nurses said, we're going to treat the people, because the white nurses and doctors said, no, we don't want to do that because we may catch this disease going into people's houses. They're dirty and they're clean, and when the kids don't know how to act, the Black Cross nurses says, we'll do it, and we'll clean the houses, and we'll treat them for whatever diseases they may have, even have their children. And so that they were very, very important. Marcus Garvey came here to support them in their effort. This is I'm having a senior moment now. Forgive me, please. What is his name? Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Dr. Daniel Hale, you've all heard of Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. He is from Philadelphia. He grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. He shined shoes and became a medical doctor. Difficult to get along with. Nonetheless, a man came in with a knife in his heart, 1930s, and Dr. Daniel Hale Williams cut his skin open, pulled the membrane back, potted the ribs, pulled the knife out, and stitched the heart back up. The first to do so. The first to work on hearts in a time in which that really was not convenient. And this is community drugstore, and this is the first drugstore. Now, most of us think that Dr. Carter was the first druggist. Dr. Carter was not the first druggist. He was not the first druggist. This is the first druggist. And I'm having a singing moment. But he is the first African-American medical doctor, not the first in Wisconsin, but he is the first he is a socialist. And so he bartered for medicine and services. And so that he would sell you cough medicine and aspirins and whatever you needed to heal you. But much like Dr. Carter, who was very social, who would help almost anybody who comes in, he was the same way. And this is the first druggist in the state of Wisconsin. He is Dr. Gilmore. Dr. Gill, he is the first pharmacist, licensed pharmacist in the state of Wisconsin, and it becomes very significant. Now, I'm telling you this because you see all of these people, they're all they're leading community people. They're the most important people in Milwaukee during that period of time, and they're coming out to support him. Surrounded by him is hotels, restaurants. You can read all about them in Black Milwaukee, and they are clearly the backbone of the community. Now, we would think this is on Walnut Street, but it's not. It's on Galena. It's on Galena, between 5th and 6th on Galena. That is where. Can you envision where that is on Galena, where businesses and stuff are now and it's growing? That property is going through the roof. Mr. Kenner. Mr. Kenner's in the Haymarket Square. Mr. Kenner, we think of barbecue, that's Mr. Kenner. Mr. Kenner had one of the first barbecue places in the country. Mr. and Mrs. Kenner. Mr. Kenner was the first African-American historian, much like myself and the community. Mr. Kenner saw himself. He would do interviews on Channel 12. Mr. Kenner is a businessman. He had a sausage house and was very successful. Mr. Kenner, and that's one of the skins off of his. Mr. Kenner is the driver. He sponsors the baseball team, the Negro League baseball team here in Milwaukee. I know I'm running out of time, but this is the group that comes together. Mr. Anthony Josie, who becomes the first mayor of Bronzeville or Walnut Street. Now, it was called Walnut Street. What they do is bring the Bronzeville mayor from Chicago up to give us special greetings and help it. And he names our community or Walnut Street, Bronzeville. And so this happens in 1948. That's when the official name for Bronzeville comes into place. And the organizer of this is Miss Bernice Lindsay, who's up in the very top up there. She hides because she doesn't want to be seen. But it's Miss Bernice Lindsay that organizes and pulls all this together. Lindsay Heights is named in her honor. You've all heard of Lindsay Heights and such. Miss Bernice Lindsay is a very significant and important person. This is the Businessmen Association. Now, there's said to be as many as 350 African-American businesses during that time off of 3rd Street and Walnut Street, but both north and south. Walnut Street itself, 7th Street, 5th Street, north and south of Walnut Street. It wasn't just on Walnut Street. 8th Street and 9th Street, north and south, all the way up to 12th Street. And then they intermixed themselves up to Fountain Light Corridor, up to Sears. Now, I'm talking, I know most of you are pretty young, you may not know the areas that I'm talking about, but up Walnut Street to the old Sears building, those were where the businesses were, and they were quite active. They were quite proud of being able to have business. I mean, you could, as you read in some of the books, because this is before my time, to have a restaurant and to have a hotel, to have a laundromat, to have an electronic store. They had all of that along that Walnut Street and that Fountain Light Corridor. This is the community, and you can see how impoverished it looked. People often say that when they eventually moved out of the Walnut Street, it was a hellhole. Why? It just simply was allowed to deteriorate horribly. Houses were 2nd, 3rd, and even 5th generations. Many other ethnic groups lived in those houses long before, and so it was impoverished. Water was not under control. Houses were in bad shape. Again, the issue of housing was really bad, and the conditions where people were bad. People were migrating up here. Who is that picture of? My favorite, Miss Bernice Lindsay, very, very special. Miss Bernice Lindsay built several housing projects. 47th and Stock, just north there. You can't see it today, but after World War II, returning home veterans, she got a plot of land, and she encouraged black businessmen, black returning veterans to build their own homes. 47th and Stock. That's 1 block north of Hampton. She, on 4th Street or Val Phillips Street, 4th and Reservoir, there's a housing project to the east of that. Miss Lindsay, when the city's reluctant to build public housing because they're concerned about black people coming to Milwaukee, Miss Lindsay said, I'm going to get a contractor and we're going to build public housing. Clearly it was not enough, but she wanted to show them all. She wanted to say, hey, if you don't build it, we're going to build it. And she did. Miss Lindsay did so much. She takes a delegation of people to the Congo, not as tourists, but to meet the president of Congo. And after that, she visits London for Pan-African Congress, and when she gets back to Milwaukee, she is invited to the White House to meet President Kennedy to talk about Black women issues, because she's the vice president of Black women nationally. Ms. Lindsay, this is the housing project that she helped build. This is C.L. Johnson. Now, C.L. Johnson owned a Ideal Tailor Shop and owned when we talk about Walnut Street or Bronzeville in a favored way, this is the paradise for our community. It's because of Miss Bernice Lindsay and because of C.L. Johnson. They own the YWCA and they own the YMCA, and they provided activities for groups. So when people think about this being our paradise, it's because they had gyms, they had basketball, they had swimming contests, they had outings, they had baseball, they had all sorts of activities in which people had an opportunity. Young people, returning veterans, this is Mrs. C.L. Johnson's business. C.L. Johnson's important now because he's tied into the national Booker T. Washington plan. They had, the Booker T. Washington plan had their own radio program, had the YWCA and the YMCA, they had newspapers, and they maintained the issues related to Black people in Milwaukee, Beloit, and in Madison. Booker T. Washington plan. And C.L. Johnson was, because he graduated from Tuskegee University and Tuskegee Plain. I should ask questions if there are any questions at all, because I know time is up, she said. Can I ask a couple questions? Can I get a couple questions? Any questions at all? I know y'all don't have no questions, but I gotta ask it anyway. Anybody? Anybody?
It was very thorough.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Dr. Gilmore, was he the first Black pharmacist in the state?
Yes, he is the first in this, and I got his license. He is the first in the state.
His son's wife was just, her writings got submitted to the Congress of,
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm sorry, Library of Congress.
That's right, yes.
Dr. Lori
Yes,
Gilmore.
she was terrific, and he was too. He was quite an interesting. He worked for the city of Milwaukee as a health worker. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes, please.
Are there any markers in Waukesha of the movement that you spoke of?
Cemeteries, and the Waukesha Freedmen, which is the name of the newspaper in Waukesha. That was their philosophy, freedmen. That didn't mean that the white people liked us, but it's their philosophy. They were yes. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but clearly that, and when you talk about a marker that is going out of business, that was their marker. And there is an African American community, at least where they lived at on the south side of Waukesha, and there's a cemetery in Waukesha where many of the descendants lived at and died. And then finally, I'm sorry to keep talking, but there are descendants that still does exist in Wisconsin. I'm going to give you one that you probably do know, Joanne Williams. Her family was part of the Valentines. Her father came up after the Civil War and melted within the community, and Joanne Williams' mother came out of the Waukesha area. And you obviously know Joanne Williams that is one descendant, but there are other descendants also. The first Tuskegee graduate, the first Tuskegee from Wisconsin comes out of Waukesha. Tuskegee Airman, that is, that I'm talking about, that goes down to Tuskegee University. Any other questions, please? Yes, sir.
Real quickly, you talked about the fact that African Americans or Black folks came up from Mississippi to western Wisconsin. How preserved is that history over there? Those are the earliest Black folk in the state, and I'm just wondering.
There is a museum in the western part of the state, in the Hillsborough area. There is a museum there that they preserve the green legacy. Many of them gave their things to that museum. That museum still does exist, and so. And I could get you the name of that museum. I can't give it to you off the top of my head, but there is it's near Platteville. Not in Platteville, but near Platteville, where that museum. And that's a mining whole community. And there's a recent book put out to talk about slavery in Wisconsin, and many of the Mineral Point is another places where African Americans actually lived in those areas. They were scattered. They didn't cluster together, but they did exist in the western part of the state.
You know,
Any
an
other?
interesting story about the lead miners in the western part of the state. That's where the badger comes from in the state of Wisconsin. They were considered badgers. They were tough. They were Eastern European and
Yes.
black folk
Yes.
for the most part. So
Yeah.
they were tough people who dug into the hills over in Black
Yeah.
Bull and other areas of the state. So.
And if you were to go to the western part of the state, down into Galena, Illinois, you see many of the descendants were lead miners, and they stayed in that area even after slavery was over, and they made lots of money. There were black miners who owned mines. Ma'am, did you have a question, please?
Yes, I just want to say that I'm happy to hear that the entrepreneurs are in those days, and now we have new entrepreneurs in this day of age that continue to build those communities.
Yes, we do. Thank you. In the back, please.
Sir, did you speak to the growth of the size of the community before World War II and after?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So the impact of the population of people of color as compared to the number of entrepreneurs before World War II and then after, was there an impact?
So the 1950s is that growth period. African Americans are migrating up here, and they're getting educated, and they're creating these businesses of all sorts, yes. Many of them take jobs in factories, tanneries, steel mills, but they also want to, like the Martins, they also want to start corner stores. And you can see that with these corner stores all over our neighborhoods. They bring their families in, and their families would run the corner stores while they work their shifts, and then they would come home. But that's one of the starting modes of African Americans creating a business. And I certainly talked about them in that Warner Street, that little Africa piece of it. But it began to spread when people began to work factories and open corner stores and open other kinds of stores, hardware stores and such. They don't all survive very long. I can feel them shushing me, setting me down. I apologize for talking too long. Would y'all accept my apology, please? Thank you.
We're deeply appreciative, fascinating presentation and tremendous information that none of us got in school.
That's right.
The next speaker is a long-term friend of mine, very long-term friend of mine. And actually, not only is he a friend of mine, but you know him also. If you've ever bought a Reach toothbrush or a Tide box, his company manufactured those. Carlton Highsmith is a retired founder and chairman of Specialized Packaging Group, package design and engineering and manufacturing business that he founded in New Haven, Connecticut, and grew it to become one of the most successful and largest packaging of black-owned businesses in America. Since merging and selling his business in 2009, Carlton has been actively engaged in numerous philanthropic projects and humanitarian projects throughout this country. He currently serves on the board of trustees for Yale New Haven Health Systems. He's the vice chairman of Quinnipiac University, and I know you all heard of Quinnipiac. They do all those polls for the political stuff, which are pretty accurate. Carlton also has served on the board of directors of Key Bank, which is one of the largest banks in the United States. He earned his undergraduate degree in economics from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I had the honor to be his roommate. I never thought he'd graduate, though. He is a recipient of numerous regional and national awards, including the Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And Carlton has also received an Emmy Award nomination as the executive producer for the documentary film Marcus McCraven, No Barriers Too High. The film is set in the 1940s and the 1950s and tells the true story of Marcus McCraven, a Black electrical engineering graduate of Howard University, and his enormous contribution to the success of America's nuclear energy program. It's a fascinating, fascinating documentary. Would you please welcome Mr. Carlton Highsmith?
It is such a delight to be back in Wisconsin in February. Thank you, Ray. It was 55 years ago. A professor walked to the front of the class and held up a dime. Changed my life. Professor was Dr. Matt Holden. The class was the politics of Black America. And that day, Dr. Holden had us talk about how best should we transform our Black communities. We're in such disarray at the time. Some of us talked about H. Rap Brown, Sophie Carmichael, their philosophies on how to transform our community. Others talked about Martin Luther King Jr., particularly the work that Martin Luther King Jr. was doing at the end of 1967, those Poor People's campaigns. What are the most effective strategies was the question of the day. Dr. Holden let us have our lively debate, walked to the front of the class, reached to his pocket, pulled out a dime and held it up. And he said, unless we can deal with this problem, none of those philosophies are going to work. Black America holds 10 cents of wealth for every dollar held by white America. 10 cents. He went on to say that this enormous wealth disparity was caused by our lack of ownership. He talked about entrepreneurship. He mentioned people like Sam Curtis Johnson, who founded a parquet flooring company in Racine, Wisconsin, and needed a wax to keep those floors clean. He talked about Bill Harley and Art Davison, who opened a small bike repair shop in Milwaukee and built a prototype for a new bike that emphasized speed and durability. He talked about John Deere, someone who had an idea for a new plow design. He mentioned Mr. Proctor and Mr. Gamble in Cincinnati, who had an idea for a new soap. He mentioned Robert Wood Johnson and his brothers in New Brunswick, New Jersey, who had this idea for a chain of drugstores. He mentioned Madam C.J. Walker, with an idea for a new black hair care product that she developed in her kitchen. But an even brighter idea Ms. Walker had was training, recruiting a national network of independent sales ladies to sell those products. Decades before Avon came out with this model. Decades. He named one entrepreneur after the other, after the other, after the other. All men and women who had an idea and took that idea and transformed it into global enterprises that employed millions of people, creating trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth, transforming those communities, fueling philanthropy that caused the founding of such elite institutions as Yale and Princeton and Harvard and Spelman, when they were the Rockefellers. Dr. Holden concluded by saying, I challenge you black students to go out and become entrepreneurs, to create the kinds of enterprises that generate that kind of wealth. And my life was changed forever. I made up my mind that day that I was going to become an entrepreneur. Not only become an entrepreneur, but to grow a business to considerable scale. That was my goal. Let me not quit. But two things delayed my entree into entrepreneurship. One, I asked my high school sweetheart to marry me, and she said yes. And the other was high school or college loans. Enormous debt. And so I needed to, thank you very much. So I needed to make money. And so I went to work for a large global packaging company. By that time, in the late 60s, early 70s, corporations had opened their doors and they were accepting black college graduates like me into their ranks. So I became an entrepreneur or entry-level manager in a corporation, and I'll tell you, I spent 10 years there, and they were very trying years. Felt not welcome, felt like I didn't belong, passed over time and time again for promotion. And what was worse is I thought I was feeling those sentiments all alone, when I was not, thanks to a brilliantly written and researched article by Ed Jones that was published in the May 1986 issue of the Harvard Business Review. Ed Jones talked to hundreds and hundreds of black managers like me across the country, and he found that they were having the same experience after I thought I was having, being passed over time and time again for promotion. Feeling of loneliness, not welcome, not having mentors, no sponsors, no one to speak on our behalf. Many black managers feeling the same as I felt. But what he found that was very interesting, because we were being passed over for promotion and spending so much time in entry-level, lower-level positions, guess what? We were getting steeped in the fundamentals of our industries. We were getting to understand how the place worked. What were those dynamics that caused businesses to be successful in their industry? So I left corporate America and after 10 years, steeped in incredible skills given me by my corporation. And one of the things I heard over and over again as I was a corporate executive was, your industry, Carl, is not delivering enough innovation. We're demanding more and different packaging ideas and packaging concepts, because guess what? Your package on that shelf has to be our silent salesman. Your package on that shelf, as one customer put it to me, has to enable me to win at that first moment of truth. When she's walking down that grocery store aisle, deciding what brand she's going to select, I need for my package to enable me to win at that first moment of truth. And so as I listened to customers, which was a skill I also learned as a corporate executive, not just listening to them, but responding to what they were asking. They were asking for more innovation. So I found my opportunity. I found the company I wanted to found. I wanted to have a company that designed most innovative packaging available in the world. So in 1983, I opened a package design engineering business in a small basement office in New Haven, Connecticut. Now it is. When I sold the business in 2009, 27 years later, this is what we look like. 8 sites across North America. We employed over 600 people at manufacturing plants that were dedicated to large corporate clients like Procter & Gamble and S.C. Johnson. Our plant in London, Ontario was exclusively dedicated to S.C. Johnson. We did all of S.C. Johnson's Ziploc boxes. Our plant in Greensboro, North Carolina manufactured all of Crest for Procter & Gamble. Our plant in Kansas City manufactured all of the boxes for Clorox's Irish Spring. These are our manufacturing plants across North America. I talked about bringing innovation. I kept this letter from 1987 because it was written by a senior executive at Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson launched a new toothbrush in the early 1980s. That was, at the time, one of the most advanced toothbrushes ever launched. It had bi-level bristles, which enabled better cleaning of your teeth, and an extended long handle for reaching your back teeth. The handle was ergonomically designed so it would help to clean the most distant recesses of your mouth. We relaunched Reach in our package in 1986 that incorporated an incredible number of features, different print technology, embossing, debossing of the handles and the bristles, and Reach became the #1 toothbrush in America as a result of the relaunch of a package that we designed. This success enabled Johnson & Johnson family of companies to be opened up to us, and we became the go-to innovator for Johnson & Johnson. Several years later, they Several years later, they launched a new brush that was the first tooth and gum brush designed by their scientists to actually promote healthy gums at the same time as cleaning your teeth. And they wanted a package that would communicate that it was a tooth and gum brush. So the package you see on screen is a package that we designed that shows a pictorial of a tooth and gum that's embossed, debossed. It also has special pearlescence coatings, gave it brilliance on shelf. And when you can't make it out too clearly on the picture, on the inside of the box there was an internal partition. That partition held the brush at a 45-degree angle to your tooth and gum. What is significant about 45-degree angle to tooth and gum? Is that not what your hygienist tells you that you should hold your brush as you're brushing? It is. So we're going to incorporate a product feature that a hygienist would recommend in our package. This package won us an international technical award from the Canadian Packaging Association, but unfortunately, this product flopped, failed commercially, because the consumer didn't get it. And at the end of the day, it's about what the consumer demands, isn't it? This is significant because in the early days of toothbrushes, you remember they all came in boxes. And we would print the color of the handle on the box. Consumers became sophisticated and said, no, the colors in my bathroom are so varied, I want to be able to see what the handle looks like. And so our first step toward getting them visibility was to give them a window carton. That's the middle box that you see. But ultimately, we had to go to a full, clear, transparent PVC carton that posed incredible amount of technological problems to get to market. Those problems were solved, and we managed the entire transition from the box for Reach to the plastic carton that you will see on shelf today. So that you'll remember my presentation, when you leave today, every one of you should get a Reach toothbrush. They're out front. So please pick up your Reach toothbrush before you leave. Now, how do you grow a business to the size and scale that I did? Organically, yes. We had a very nice $15 million a year package design engineering business in the early 90s, but I wanted to grow a business to considerable scale. I wanted to go into manufacturing. If you know the long value chain in packaging, the money is made in manufacturing, and that's what I wanted to do. But how do you go about getting into manufacturing? You either build plants from scratch, or you go acquire companies. I did a little bit of both. I had several greenfield plants that I built, but most of my growth came from acquisitions. And thanks to the brilliant work done by Reginald Lewis, for those of you who don't know that name, you should, because I use Reggie's playbook in terms of assembling the financing strategy for my acquisitions. I followed Reggie's playbook. He's a black lawyer in Baltimore who bought TLC Beatrice Holding, the first black entrepreneur to have a business that had revenues over $1 billion. I simply followed Reggie's playbook in all of my acquisitions. I want to talk a little bit about this one because this was probably one of our largest and biggest innovations. Innovation not just in the specification for the package, but also how we manufactured it. Before Procter sort of de-emphasized dry powders and went to liquids, they reformulated their signature brand Tide. That reformulation made the powder more hygroscopic, which meant that it absorbed moisture, and so the package had to have a high barrier. So everyone knew a high barrier, film laminated box board. Solution is easy, but how do you do that at speed when you're printing on a gravure press at 500 feet a minute? You've got to find a way to get that plastic to adhere to that box board. E-beam lamination is how you do it. And that's how we're able to win the largest black-owned or contract with a black-owned company at that time in Procter & Gamble's history. $100 million contract to produce all of their dry powder detergents. As a result, the other manufacturers of dry powder detergents wanted to talk to us. And we ended up being the nation's largest manufacturer of paperboard packaging for dry powders, for all the major brands, for Unilever, Colgate, Hewish. Also, because of the investments we made in narrow web flexography printing, we became the nation's largest producer of toothpaste cartons for all the major brands, all of U.S. Procter & Gamble Crest, all of Colgate Canada, so on and so forth. What I want to do now, and I'm really interested to hear the comments from those magnificent entrepreneurs we have coming up after me, because in 2009, just as I was making a decision to sell my business, I got a call from Diversity Business Plus, and they had followed my company's story over the previous 25 years, and they wanted to know, how did you do that? What are some of the lessons that you would want to pass along to the next generation of entrepreneurs? What are some of the things they need to think about? And so I was really honored to have been asked to write an article for the publication. And so I decided I was going to spend a considerable amount of time really thinking about what's real. Not theoretical, but what is it that I can convey that's useful, that people can get it, say, yeah, that's right. And so I spent the first Monday in my office with an easel, and I decided I'd have a process where I would have an easel on the left side of the paper. I would write down every year I was in business. In the next column, I would write down what was going on in the business that year. The third column would be what were the decisions that I had to make as a result of what was going on in the business. Fourth column was what happened as a result of my decision. Good or bad, what happened? And then the final column was what lessons do I take away from this? And I did it for every year. And I'll tell you, some of so remembering and recollections were painful because things didn't always go good. We had made 2001, and as an example, I built a new plant in Detroit for Daimler Chrysler that failed miserably. It cost me millions and millions of dollars in losses. I had it on the list. What did I learn from that? What did I learn from that major boondoggle? So when I was all done, every wall in my office had sheets of paper on it. And I went around, I started to circle key learnings and lessons. What did you learn? What did you take away from that? Then I started to compile all of the key learnings, and I decided to rank them. Which ones were occurring the most? What was the most frequent thing I learned from all those years of making all those decisions? And there were hundreds and thousands of decisions. And I decided to write my article much like David Letterman would do his top 10 list. And that's how I wrote the article. And surprisingly enough, that article is still up on the web. in an obscure place somewhere. And hopefully you'll get the link to it before you leave or after you leave. Well, I'm going to go through my top 10 list right now. These are the top 10 learnings that I took away from 26, 27 years in business. Key learning number 10. Don't forget about other parts of your life. Running a business as an entrepreneur, we know it means work. We know it means commitment, right? That goes with the territory. But don't forget about those things which make life worth living. Family, friends, fun. I'm a high school basketball official. I was. And one of my great joys was on a Friday night trying to keep up with 17, 18-year-old kids. I always try to get home for Friday nights so I can ref high school basketball. So my urging you is that balance. Don't let the business consume you, that you forget about why you're even doing this. Key learning number 9. You don't have to have review quality. They don't have to be audit quality, but you should have a set of financials that tell the story of your business, that accurately tell the story of your business. This is what I took away from my corporate career was budgeting. Having purity in financials, whether they're monthly or quarterly, whatever they are, you gotta have a set of financials that are reliable, accurate, and tell the story of your business. Particularly as you grow and start to approach financial institutions. Absolutely a must. I talked about innovation. But the kind of innovation that I did, we defined it to be lots of different things. I recall sitting in Cincinnati once next to the global director of innovation for Procter & Gamble, and I asked him a question. How do you find innovation? What is it? His answer startled me. He said, innovation is whatever she says it is. And what he was meaning, what he meant is, you have to talk to your customers, listen to your customers. They'll tell you whether there are gaps in what you're supplying or not. So talk to your customers, listen to them, and somehow incorporate doing things better within your business. Delight your customer. I love that word, delight. Because a delighted customer is not going to go looking at your competitors. I was so focused on this notion of delighting our corporate clients that we measured it. How do we measure it? What are my customers concerned about? My large client customers were concerned about, are you shipping the right product? Are you shipping it on time? Is it free of defects? So that's my perfect order rate, as we called it. And so we incorporated into the metrics that we paid our employees, so that your annual bonus was determined by how high our POR was. So really delight your customers. Not every day in business is the same for those of us who are in business. Some days are ho-hum, you go through the ropes, nothing really exciting. Other days are meet-the-moment days that could make or break the trajectory of your business. Be ready for those days, particularly when you know they're coming. The example I give is my first business conference in 1983. I just opened a business, was in Hartford, Connecticut. And I looked at who the company was going to be there. There was only one that I saw as a potential customer. It was Hubline. They're not around anymore. They're part of Grand Met that became part of Diageo. But Hubline at the time was a spirits company. Smirnoff Vodka is one of their brands. At the time, they owned KFC. El Paso Taco was one of their brands. What I did before I engaged with them that day, I went out and I researched all their brands, tried to understand what it was they were trying to accomplish in positioning those brands. Sat down and did conceptual ideas on what might they do differently. And when I had my meeting with them, I blew them away. They had not expected anyone to have gone to that much trouble researching what their issues and their problems were and coming up with ideas unsolicited, which is why to help them in their marketplace. Didn't get any business, but I got something that proved to be more valuable, and I'll talk about that later. I got a business card to have a meeting with their director of purchasing, and I'll tell you about that meeting a bit later, but remember that. 5, this is crucially important. You've got to have some sense as to what makes you different, because you're going to have competitors, right? People got to be doing what you do. What do you do to distinguish yourself from everybody else who's doing what you do? What's your value proposition? If you ask me what our value proposition was, we targeted folks that we talked to. We knew that we could not be everything to everybody. We brought a world-class innovation. We had an operational excellence emphasis. Today, we call it change management. Well, if you gave us a project, we're going to execute it with absolute excellence. And what was the other thing? We were always looking to get better. Continuously improving quality, price, service levels. So that was how I went to market. You have to have some strategy for how you go to market too, and what distinguishes you and separates you from all the other people who do what you do. I get booed sometimes when I talk about this one. But as an entrepreneur, particularly one who is becoming successful, you're gonna start making money. Some of you make a lot of money. And now you have to make choices. What will I do with that money? Am I gonna buy a bigger BMW? Am I gonna buy a condo in South Beach? Am I gonna a house on the vineyard? I never criticize folks for making those kinds of decisions, but don't forget about your business. If you want to grow a business to scale, it has to be invested in. The people, processes, technology, don't forget about investing back in your business. I was really disciplined about this because if I had not been, I would never have been able to pull off some of the acquisitions that we did. Wouldn't have the resources, wouldn't have the management expertise. It's about investing in your business. I'll tell you, first 18 months I was in business, there were at least 100 times I wanted to turn up the lights. I can't do this. This is too hard. I'm not making any money. There's no prospects that I'm going to be successful at this. But I had this vision of this company that I wanted to someday run. So have that vision. Don't forget why you got in this. And don't mistake some shortfall or some disappointment for failure. Tenacity. It takes tenacity to be an entrepreneur. They'll tell you. Like it or not, your integrity and whether or not you kept your word will follow you no matter where you go. Yes. Like it or not, you will become known by how well you kept your word to your employees, your bank, particularly. Your past dealings with banks will determine your future dealings with them. Trust me on this. Integrity. Vitally important for entrepreneurs. And my number one, relationships. There was no single learning that came from my exercise than my appreciation for the value of the incredible people that I formed relationships over the decades I was in business. It is absolutely the most vital, most important, and I would argue the most important for you as well. Relationships that you form with your customers primarily. As I conclude, I started my remarks by holding up a dime. What is that disparity today? How much wealth does Black America hold for every dollar of wealth held by Black America? 13 cents. 13 cents. We've made very little progress over the past 55 years, closing the troubling wealth gap. Consider this. If we simply repeat the incremental improvement of the past 55 years going forward, In other words, we perform the same as we performed the last 55 years. If we perform at that rate, you realize how long it will take us to eliminate this troubling wealth gap? 1,595 years. Not until the year 3520. This must not be allowed to end like some Shakespearean tragedy, where a past becomes prologue. We can do better. We must do better. We need those of you in this room and those of you joining us virtually to work hard to help create the ecosystem needed for Black-owned businesses to thrive. Through your advocacy, through your investments in Black-owned business, through your patronage and support of Black-owned businesses, through your mentorship of Black-owned businesses, the Black community needs more entrepreneurs like the wonderful ones you will meet later. We need more Black business owners to build, to employ, and to invest in our communities. We need more wealth creators to help construct and sustain the kinds of institutions and organizations within our communities that will make life better for the people who live there. No, when it comes to wealth creation in this country, past must not be allowed to be prologue.
Thank you, Carlton. That was truly inspiring. Was I asleep in that class when Madam nailed that down? Carl talked about scaling up, and I think that's really an important topic to focus, and he gave the 10 points, which I hope we all can access as we go forward. One of the things that I always found interesting was that when you look at Black businesses, only 70% of the Black businesses are single members. They don't have any employees. So scaling up becomes a real challenge and to do. But our next speaker is someone who's an exception. He's been able to scale up. Tress Pugh is the visionary founder and CEO of Sip and Savor Hospitality Group, a coffee house brand that has become a cornerstone of Chicago's cultural and community landscape. Tress's journey from the Marine Corps to serving as a federal agent, that's got to be quite a story, to becoming a real estate investor is shaped into a leader deeply committed to people and purpose. In 2005, Tress founded Sip and Savor with a singular mission to provide more than just coffee. He sought to create spaces that uplift communities, celebrate culture, and foster connection. His leadership and heartfelt dedication have turned Sip and Savor into a thriving 6-location coffee house brand that embodies the spirit of Chicago. Tress's journey is a testament to wisdom, born from experience and a commitment to creating something bigger than himself. He leads with compassion and purpose, ensuring that his company is not just a coffee house, but a movement, one that inspires connection, celebrates diversity, and gives everyone who walks through its doors a sense of belonging. With a legacy rooted in service, resilience, and love for community, Tress continues to make an impact, one cup, one connection at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, Tress.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't usually stand behind the podium, so I hope you don't mind if I kind of move around. Brother, that was powerful. Powerful. Give him a hand again, please. So you heard a little bit about me. My name is Trez Van Pugh III. I'm the founder and CEO of Sip and Savor Hospitality Group, which is the parent company of Sip and Savor Coffee Houses. How many people here from Chicago? Anybody in Chicago? About 3 of you. Any of y'all know about Sip and Savor? Outstanding. So 20 years ago, I came up with this concept. But before we get into Sip and Savor, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I grew up on the near north side of Chicago, neighborhood called Old Town. Went to public school, went to college for a year, that didn't work out, joined the Marine Corps, came back, went to college, finished my degree, started working at the Postal Service. Left the Postal Service when I was recruited by a federal agency I won't name, but I worked as a federal agent, went undercover for a while, nobody knew what I did for a living. Opened up my coffee house in 2005 while I was a federal agent. I want to explain to you some of the things that happened before I opened the coffee house that will help you understand my why. My why is very important as to why I opened this coffee shop. Back in 2005, I was investing in real estate, so I would drive around the city of Chicago and I'll pick up these real beat-up buildings and I would rehab them. And I did fairly well at that. One Friday night, December 5th, 2004, I was out doing that. Pulled up on 87th and the Dan Ryan to gas up my Tahoe. Heard a loud noise. Pop! My ankle buckled. I said, man, somebody's car just backfired and a hot piece of lead or something hit me. I spun around. Everything went into slow motion. When I spun around, it was this kid raising a pistol, coming at me, and your senses get so keen when you think you're about to leave this earth. I knew he had a revolver. Now, granted, keep in mind, I was a federal agent when this kid shot me. He didn't know. Federal agents don't wear uniforms. We always usually undercover. I had a pistol on me while I was there gassing up. Couldn't get to it. They got a thing called fight or flight. You know about that? I said, well, this kid done already showed the propensity to shoot me. He's about to shoot me again. Milliseconds. I know I can't get to my weapon. My hand is stuck on the gas nozzle. So I turned around and started spraying gas and screaming all kind of epithets. And dancing, because I'm a dancer. And I'm trying to get small. He fires again. When you fire a weapon, fire comes out the nozzle. It hit that gas. Big fireball. Singed both us. We fall back. I get behind the tank. I pull out my Luger. I say, he got the right one today. When I come up, it's people running, screaming, hollering. I see the kid. I bear down to shoot him. Some lady runs in front of me. I get mad, push out the way. They jump in the van, they take off. I didn't know I got hit a second time in the chest. Only way I knew, this lady was screaming and pointing at my suit. And I like to dress, as you can see, I had a nice suit on that night. Hole went right through, had on a Nino Cerruti suit. I'll never forget it. My brother had gave me his gas bills. He still have the ComEd electric bill. He still have the envelopes where the bullet went through. Bullet went right up under my left nipple, came out the other side. Reason I'm sharing this with you, and the only people that really know is my therapist and select few people. But it's going to help you with my why. You see, before I opened this coffee house, I was talking about, man, next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When you have vision, one of the biggest things you got to do, seize the moment and implement it. So while they had me in that ambulance and I was sitting up there like, damn, I didn't get a chance to shoot that kid because I was angry that this kid was younger than my son. See, I look young. I've been married 41 years. I'm 62 years old. When I'm in that ambulance, you know what I was thinking about? First thing, man, my wife and my kids, I hope I don't go into shock because there was no blood. It was just smoke coming out my chest. I'll never forget the smell. It smelled like steak, because it was burnt flesh. I'm serious. I'm sharing something with you that only my therapist and a select few people know. You know what the second thought was? Damn, I ain't gonna be able to open this coffee house. That's what I thought about. So when you got vision, seize the moment, time waits for none of you. Implement it and start doing it. All right, let's talk about my business. My why is to service the community. We opened up Sip and Save in 2005, and I opened it up at a place where you really shouldn't open up a business. It was empty lots, vacant apartment buildings, no foot traffic. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do something in the community because I grew up on the north side, and one thing over there, we had all the amenities. Coffee house, dog groomer, you can go get a good steak, you can go get a good bourbon or a beer at the lounge. I grew up right there where everything was happening. All the buildings I was purchasing as a real estate person, they didn't have no amenities on the south side. I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open a coffee house. Here's the thing. When you open up a coffee house, you need to have customers. I didn't have any. So, as some of my team members would say, like this is my chief strategy officer here, Whitney, and this is, as you can see, my content creator here. My company is ran by all women. My attorneys are women, my accountants are women, my managers are women because they're particular. Their attention to detail is immaculate. She always tells me, you know what, you building a plane while you flying it. It's pretty much what I was doing. But here's the thing. Remember what I said, when you got vision, implement it. So I implemented it. And in my mind, as long as the lights was on and I had an employee there, I'm running a business. No sir, no ma'am. That's not running a business. Because when I wasn't kicking in doors, or I wasn't out on stakeouts, or putting bracelets on people, or testifying, or dealing with suspects, witnesses, and everybody else, victims, I was in there at night trying to cook the books to make sure everybody got paid. So the next thing I want to share with you, you got to have a team. You got to have a team. Write that down. And not only do you got to have a team, you got to have a competent team. Because I started getting accountants, attorneys, I thought I was doing my thing. I don't care how many letters you have behind your name, and I'm sure you can attest to this, brother. CPA, MBA, ESPN, ABC, it don't matter. A lot of them still don't have your best interests at heart. They will rob you blind. So, again, I'm building the plane where I'm taking it. I'm out of town, undercover. My business was this. So I put a team together, eventually, over time, that wanted to see me win. I have this Pewism. I believe nothing what I hear and half of what I see. Helped me get through the Marine Corps. Helped me stay married 41 years. Helped me deal with being an agent, dealing with informants and stuff. I believe nothing what I hear. In God we trust, all else bring data. That's the way I operate. I got another thing, they call it Pewisms, because of my last name. You deserve what you tolerate. I got it on a t-shirt. Don't try to use it because I trademarked it. Just need you to know that. When I put my team together, vis-a-vis Whitney, my daughter, and a couple other people, they sat me down, because I only wanted to have one location. I was just doing something for the community where I had buildings at. I was good. It started to become a destination spot. Contractors came there, politicians came there, ball players, but it was still a lot going on in the area. It wasn't really growing yet. Never forget, an article came out, I want to say 2009 or 10. Cranes, it said, Bronzeville, the next Lincoln Park. Everybody started buying over there. All the Greystones, you start having businesses and everything. And I like to think, because of what we did there on 43rd Street, sparked all of that. And to this day, to this very day, Miami, New York, LA are trying to get us to come to their cities and states because of the vision, because of my team, and most importantly, because of the processes we done put in place. Brother said it best, you gotta have technology, and this game ain't for everybody. I could do this for free if I was able to. I didn't go into this to make money. I went into it to make a difference. So let me tell you a little bit about our coffee houses. How am I sitting on time? Because I don't want you to send the man after me. Okay, I'll wrap it up in 5 minutes. I believe in the 3 B's, be brief, be brilliant, and be done. Here we go. Our coffee houses are more than just coffee. And what I mean by that, we work on what I call the 5 C's. We're crisp, clean, classy, consistent customer service. After COVID, we had to adjust. We went to what I call the 4 E's. Education, empowerment, entertainment, and the experience. It helps me to remember stuff when I can put it with something. Whenever my team sit down with me and we talk about things, I always ask them this one question. And I use this acronym called RUMBA. My daughter or Whitney here would be like, you know what we need to start doing? You know, more of these karaoke joints. We need to start renting the place out. We need to get artists in here. I said, RUMBA. Is it reasonable, understandable, measurable, believable, and achievable? I said, y'all writing it down? I'm going to say it slow. Does it fit into that acronym? Is this reasonable, what we're trying to do? Is it understandable for the team? Is it measurable? Is it something that people can believe, and can we achieve it? I've been extremely fortunate, extremely blessed to have people around me who wants to see me win. If you're an entrepreneur out here, be very careful. And this may not come across that good of friends and family, because them are the first that will break your heart when you come up with an idea. That ain't gonna work. Well, that's stupid. Be focused like a laser. If it's your passion, don't let nobody tell you can't do it. So, I'm gonna wrap up for you, because that's how I get out. I appreciate you guys. Any questions real quick? Any questions at all about Sip and Save? Right there in the back.
Can you say the 3 or 4 E's again?
The 4 E's?
Yeah.
Education, empowerment, entertainment, and the experience. Anything else real quick? Just tell me to get off if it's too much. I'm good?
Just a question, so as far as building a team, how did you build this team if you weren't making any money?
Well, it wasn't that we wasn't making money, and that's a good question. Here's the thing, when you're building a team, there's no secret wand to it. I prayed a lot, and then I watch people. I take a lot of pride in seeing another business that's working well, and I'll sit down for those who's willing to share with you, hey, who's your general manager? Where did you get her? How does she handle your business? Can I talk to her? Who's your operation manager? Who's your chief financial officer? Who's your accountant? You find out, and it's a process. I'm gonna be honest with you, because it ain't easy. So I know they probably don't answer it completely, but I can't give you an answer that you could write down and say, okay, I'm gonna follow this. I don't know if that makes sense to you, brother, but it's a process.
That's a process.
Okay, maybe one more over there.
How do you take care of yourself, your mental health?
I struggle with it. We being transparent, right? They tell me all the time. Not only did I get shot, I just had prostate surgery, cancer, back in July 24. My dad died from it, and my brother. July 24th for last year. Always get checked. For the men in here, get checked. I just had surgery, and they waited on me hand and foot, along with my wife, my daughter, and everything. Kept me out of the business. She bought me this green crap that they juice, looked like seaweed. I couldn't stand it. But the best thing we do, and I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'll wrap up with this. We have mental health therapists that come into our business and talk to our employees, talk to us. We have yoga instructors come in. I shut down all the businesses. We do movie night. We go bowling. It's a way of saying it ain't always about your bottom line. We care about your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. And that's what differentiates us, as my man said, from all them other coffee houses. All right, with that, I'm gonna wrap up. I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys letting us come here.
We've had two powerful presentations, but we're not ending. We've got a panel that we're gonna bring Trez back for that panel, but let me introduce the members of the panel while they're setting up here. We have Edna Albanacki. Edna is the president and CEO of Albanacki Industrial, Inc., an industrial safety and construction supply company. She founded the company in 1991, and the company provides distribution on a national basis. She's also president of Albanacki Consulting, which she founded in 1993. The consulting is full service, client-focused firm, and some of the areas of consulting include information technology, education, telecommunications, security, and construction management. Ms. Albanacki has also received numerous awards for her professional accomplishments and community service. She currently serves as a board member of the North Central Minority Supplier Development Council, and has been on a chair of one committee on that council. And she has served on the board of the Community Memorial Hospital. In an effort to give back to the community and pull forth the next generation, she has been a member of Washington High School of Information Technology Advisory Board for 17 years. And would you come up and please take a seat? Thank you for being here. Our next panelist, many of you might know, is Garland Smith from G's Clippers. Garland, or G, is not just a Milwaukee's barber. He embodies the spirit of the city and is a lifelong resident and self-taught barber since the age of 13. He founded G's Clippers in Bronzeville and has been a community hub for 29 years. As one of the nation's largest black-owned barbershop, G's Clippers serves a diverse clientele, including professional athletes and civic leaders. Beyond haircuts, G has made impactful contributions to community health, transforming his shop into a vaccination site during the pandemic, and launching G's MKE Wellness Clinic for essential health services. G also prioritizes mental wellness by hosting Real Men, Real Talk forums, fostering open discussions for men to address life's challenges. Whether providing free back to school cuts, feeding families during Thanksgiving, or cheering on the Bucks with his sons, G is Milwaukee's staunch advocate committed to the city's growth and unity. Mr. G, good luck. And next we have Angela Smith, who owns Daddy's Soul Food and Grill. She's a graduate of Cardinal Stritch University. That's great. And with a bachelor's degree in business management and human services. She's an entrepreneur and a high-capacity community leader in Milwaukee. She is the co-owner of Daddy's Soul Food and Grill, a beloved restaurant known for its award-winning Southern-style cuisine and family-centered values. She's the founder of Dulaney Real Estate Investments, and Angela owns properties in the city of Milwaukee and is a consultant to developers, landlords, and property management companies. Beyond her business, Angela serves as executive pastor at Amazing Faith Ministries, where she nurtures spiritual growth and community connections. We're especially excited today's reception because Angela is catering our food. So thank you so very much. Angela, would you please join us? I've got a couple of questions. We're going to do some questions with the panel, and then we'll give the audience a chance to ask them some questions. But let me just start out with some questions for the full group. And you can do any more introduction that you'd like that I didn't cover. But would you share what unique qualities or aspects set your business apart from others. And we can start from left to right or right to left, or whoever has the mic is.
Our company, Abernathy Industrial, is an industrial safety and construction supply company. And Abernathy Consulting is a consulting company. I uniquely positioned myself when I first started the company, the industrial company, to be a key person and factor in my clients' businesses and answering points of pain. So we specialize in points of pain. And I started the consulting company as a result of these major Fortune 500 companies wanting something other than an industrial product or a safety product, but wanting intellectual property, such as a standard operating procedure. And I then, because people do business with people that they know, they trust, and they believe in, I then started the consulting company. And it just, took off in terms of but it was all about answering points of pain. If you're into a Chrysler plant and you're providing the safety supplies to it, and then they say, well, hey, there's this person that who operates this machine, and he's done it for 17 years. If something happens to him, we don't know what to do with it. Can you help us with a standard operating procedure? Well, I said, yeah, I could do it. But I needed to have a consulting company to do that. So I created a consulting company to address points of pain.
I would like to think that what stands out about G's Clippers compared to other barbershops in the city of Milwaukee, one, the size, 8,000 square foot barbershop, 30 barbers, so you can get cut in a timely manner. The fact that I have a health clinic in the barbershop, that one could come and get their blood pressure checked, blood glucose level, we do vaccinations, a lot of education on health, just the all-around community outreach that G's Clippers do. You rarely find a barbershop that truly understands what it is to take care of the community that takes care of us.
At Daddy's, I feel like we stand out because we're consistent and reliable. A lot of times when you're in the food business and your family or small business, you don't be as consistent as you should be. I found that a lot. We used to find that in the community. So we told ourselves, if we're going to start something, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it completely and keep it consistent to make sure that those who experience it one time, they're experiencing it the same way the next time. Also, we decided, I love what he said about putting back into your business. We decided to grow. We were like 1,700 square feet, and people were waiting in line for 45 minutes because we were too small. My family told me, don't do it, don't get bigger, let them wait. But we couldn't do that, so we decided to double the size of the store so that the community can have a nice place to eat soul food and enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy their meal without having to wait so long.
Real quick, what differentiates us is, our tagline is where coffee and community meet. And I'll just give you a quick example. Again, as I told you, my company is ran by mostly all women. So while I would be at work, we would get deliveries of furniture, big heavy bottles. My customers would literally get up off the couch off the table and bring all my inventory into the shop, call me, let me know that they did that. If it's snowing, they shovel, put down, I'm serious, put down salt. So we get the buy-in from the community. And I'll just end with this. We have what we call mystery shoppers that come in and check on, is the place clean? Are they upselling? Are they thanking you and all that? Well, I really don't need that because the community gonna tell me, hey, that new guy, he don't smile much. Because they wanna see us win. So what differentiate us is the community buy-in. It's like their coffee house. The art on our walls is local artists. The musicians that perform on our deck, on the back patio, are all local. And one thing I do personally before I even got into this, above one of my coffee houses, I rent out, or I really pay for everything, disabled vets, recovering addicts, and homeless people. And we've been doing that over 35 years.
Preston, since you have the mic, a two-part question. You talked a little bit about this, but this is for the whole panel in general. What inspired you to start your business? And two, what's the biggest obstacle you faced as a business owner? And how did you overcome it?
That's 3 parts.
Okay. You know, I missed that other class that Carl was in.
With the nod.
So, just so I'm clear, so what made me start? I thought there was a need in the communities where I was rehabbing buildings. I mean, they did a study and the money stayed in the black community less than an hour, but if you go to all these other communities like Chinatown, Germantown, money stayed in the community or in that neighborhood for almost weeks or months. And so what that let me know that there was a need for something there. The other thing, what is the biggest challenge? It's a bunch of them, but for me is, and they'll probably disagree with me while people looking at me, is trying to get competent people that come to work, come on time, and take pride in what they do. It is difficult to get people that really in the service industry. It's ridiculous. And what was the third one, brother? I'm sorry.
I think you covered it.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Yep.
How do you overcome?
pray a lot. No, we have a good training program, and I'm sorry, but we have a training program, and the screening is ridiculous. We got videos, we do things through visual, audio, and then hands-on. Our training is something else. It's weeks of training at every location. They go through a test, they gotta meet a certain criteria, then we put them out there in front of our customers and let our customers decide. Okay, they make the cut for what your brand is about.
Again, what inspired start the business, biggest obstacles, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I'm not the one that was inspired. It was my husband. Remember, I'm a co-owner. I was like, no. But he was inspired because he was asked by a developer in the city if he wanted to take his catering business into a brick and mortar. And my husband was like, sure. And I was like, hold up. You know, this is a restaurant and they don't last in 3 years, you know. So that's what inspired him. Someone thought that his food was good enough to put into brick and mortar, and they had the faith to work with him or us to build the business up until we could be stable. What was the second one?
Your biggest obstacle.
Obstacle, same, ditto. And I would love to speak with you about how you do your training, because it is so hard to find people to buy into what you're selling when you're a small entrepreneur, because, and I'm gonna be honest, y'all know everybody at home cooking.
Right.
They own it, they feel like they can do it better than you. So his biggest obstacle was getting people to cook the food the way he said, every time, do not stray. Consistently. They would think that their grandmother's menu was better, the way that they do it was better, they'd be putting stuff in there on the side. My husband be about to
Hurt somebody.
but it's a fight finding people that can trust your brand and want to duplicate it because you've asked them to and you're paying them to do that.
I would say what inspired me was, I mean, I had been cutting hair since I was 12 years old out of my mom's house. I grew up in a household with 5 brothers and 1 sister, and somebody had to pick up the tray. It's quite a bit of money for your parents to be sending 6 boys to the barbershop every other week. So I was the one, I'm the second to the youngest, that started cutting hair. And I think, you know, as time went on, you know, I was an employee for the post office, and it wasn't a bad job, but I wasn't truly happy.
Yeah.
I always cut hair when I got off work or before work or on the weekends, and it wasn't work for me, but I made money from it. I'm like, boy, I would do this for free. So it wasn't until I was 21 years old, actually, that I decided to make out of a career. But just like the two of you. I think my biggest challenge was maybe, not maybe, for sure, was trying to develop people. I'm seeing things in them, but they're not seeing in themselves. And me not knowing how, like, dude, this dude is talented as ever. He don't get it. He's lazy, So really trying to, late, exactly, I mean, that was tough. That was tough. So what I decided to do was, and I'm it's still a challenge, was trying to learn how to communicate with those particular barbers, and one, give them compliments, and then tell them how much better they can be. So I do a lot of one-on-one communication with those particular barbers, and in time, I think I got a pretty good group of individuals. Out of close to 30 barbers I have, about 15 of them been with me for 10 years or more. I got one guy that's been with me for the full 30 years that G's Clip has been open, doing something right.
Love it.
Well, before I went into business, I managed my brother's basket.
Could you get that mic a little closer?
Yeah, before I went into business, I managed my brother's vascular surgery practice and his business. And I came out of law school and I didn't want to do law. And he said, well, why you're not, because you don't know what you want to do, why don't you manage my practice for me? And so I did, and I was really good at it. I ran a business like, a well-oiled machine. And then I said, well, I think I want to do this for myself. And I had a feasibility study done in this industry of distribution, and I didn't look back. The feasibility study said go for it. There are very few women, very few people of color in this type of distribution business, and I went for it. Challenges, once again, people. Good help is hard to find. It's not a cliche, it's a reality. One of the things that we've done to improve our pool of people is we've tapped into the universities for people in accounting, people in supply chain management, now they have these supply chain degrees and stuff. And some of the young people in my company came up with a video documentation of all the processes in my company. I got sick with cancer, and they said, Miss A, don't worry about this business. We've come up with something that's going to make sure that everything is run just like you like it. I said, okay, well, what are you guys doing? And they said, we've got a video for every system and process in this company. So when I came back and I saw what they had done, and then they just kind of got crazy with it. They were making videos for everything, but it was real neat to be able to say, okay, you've got one computer screen here, and you've got another one here, and you've got the video, and it's only like a 3 or 4 minute video on how to process this invoice. Every system that you have to touch and everything else, you can have it, the video over here, and you can literally do the invoicing on this other one. And embracing the ideas of young people, embracing the ideas and the leveraging that technology does. People who came on with the company were onboarded much quicker. They learned those processes, and nobody had to sit with them and say, hey, you're not ordering this stuff right, you're doing this. You can just go watch the video, and you can watch it as many times as you need to watch it. You can back it up if I miss something or whatever. So we've got, and we've actually done the video documentation for some of our major clients too. One of the utilities, they had people retiring at a really quick pace, and they didn't have people coming on fast enough. And people were walking out the door with all their systems and processes and this, that, the other. And we've set in place for them on the consulting side, the video documentation for them.
Good. We know that it's hard to get capital for businesses to grow it. So talk a little bit about how you got capital to expand your business. And that's a general question to all of you.
Well, I think capital is a misnomer. That it's not necessarily capital that you need. Look, when I went into business, my parents funded the money for me to go into business. But I very quickly had contracts and business coming in, and I'm self-financed. I didn't need any loans. And a lot of times people will say, well, okay, small businesses or whatever, they need loans to expand and to capitalize or whatever. No, they need business. They need contracts. They need to build teams and to be propelled. Because if you've got money coming in, you can self-finance.
I would say, for the first, I opened G's Clippers in 1995. I opened it with $5,000 and the help from my 5 brothers, putting the floor down, the countertops up, the mirrors, and I just purchased some barber chairs, and so I didn't borrow any money until year 8. That's when I purchased the building that G's Clippers was in then, and I purchased it through North Milwaukee State Bank. Randy Myricks, who was the president then, was a very good friend of mine, and he was a client of mine. So he made it happen. To Brother Carlton's point, relationships. When I tell you, that's when I really got to see how relationships in banking work. I didn't go through all the red tape. He knew my business acumen. He knew that I was dependable, I was trustworthy, and he made it happen. So relationships, of course, and like I said, when I started G's, it was just myself and my brothers and $5,000.
We had no capital. We had no capital. We pretty much worked, and like G said, my husband, they did the decorating, the flooring. Our friends all came together, and we bought the pots, the pans, and all of it. But we did have WIBIC. I went through some business classes with WIBIC, and because I am a woman, I sought them to see if we can get some type of grant for opening up. Our credit was not good. Credit is important, especially when you're needing capital. But they did find a grant that they could give us, not a grant, it was a loan, $10,000 loan for the major equipment that we needed. So obviously the equipment was their collateral. But that relationship with WIBIC has me here today. It's funny, Athena is the one that called me, and Athena was our person all those years ago at WIBIC that helped us through that process. And then, like G said, it was about year 6 when we, not 6, about year 5 when we expanded. WIBIC came back because they saw the strength of our financials. The first thing we did, the first year, we didn't know we was gonna blow up like we did. We had never managed that kind of money by ourselves before. So we got an accountant, and we made sure that they had our financials straight so that when we did have to go and get more money, they could see that we were serious about what we were doing, and we weren't just, playing with this thing. But that was about year 5.
Are there any bankers in here? I hate banks. I'm just going to be honest, and I'm going to tell you a real quick story. I was a real estate investor. I was a federal agent. I made about $170,000 a year. And here's the thing. In order to get money from banks, you already got to have money. So my thing was, I went to a bank. I won't say the name of it. I had about $200,000 in different accounts. I said, I want to get a line of credit for $100,000. They was like, we need to see your P&Ls, your taxes. I said, I got double what I'm asking for. You gonna give me this type of runaround? And that's when I started hating banks. So I used a lot of my own money. I'm always looking for capital, I'm gonna be honest. Banks, you need them when you really gonna grow like we're about to grow, probably going global. But for my first 20 years, banks would always try to come back later on. I did creative financing. I had a bunch of people in the community wanting to be partners. So you can't be a partner, but you could use me as a stock. I said, if you got 30, 40, 50,000 sitting in a savings account getting 2%, I'll pay you 6. I'll set up a promissory note, I'll give you an amortization chart. I said, and I'll guarantee it with my pension. If this business go belly up tomorrow and I get clipped or die, you're gonna get that money, either Zelle to you, ACH or whatever. I raised a little bit under $2 million from people in the community. I done paid it all back with interest. So I get real creative. You ain't gonna stop me from doing what I need to do. I'm gonna find a way. Even though I ran up credit cards, used my mom and my brothers, and my score went from 780 to probably 500 because of all the stuff I did. But that's what gave me longevity and sustainability, is that ability. Like my man said, you gotta have that drive, that fortitude. You cut from a different cloth when you're an entrepreneur. You find a way.
We've got just a few more minutes left, so I want to ask one question. We have enough time for the questions from the audience. So one question just for all of you quickly, and then we'll go to the audience. What actionable advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to grow and scale their business? What would you suggest that they should do? Trent, you want to start?
It's so much that question is really one thing you saying, just one thing they should do?
Yeah.
I would do research, I would guess. Is it a need for what you're trying to do to expand? That's the main thing. I mean, people will tell you, oh, you need to do this and that and the other. Look at, is there a need? And if you're brick and mortar, like I said, I got 6, keep in mind, you're going to have either rent or mortgage times, for me, times 6, gas, light, water, insurance, taxes, payroll, your accountant, your attorney, social media, your vendors. So you better do your math and then add tax to it. So I would say do your due diligence and see, do I have the capacity to expand?
And I would say on that, you gotta know when to walk away and know when to run. Because we did have a second location, and it's funny, we should have seen the red flag when we opened up in 2020. And it's a little diner, it was so cute, we wanted to have breakfast, and we was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And the people, just like, oh, they were so happy we were coming, and the health department said, sorry, COVID. So it took 1.5 years to get back open. We were open for 4 years, the community really loved us, but that problem was finding someone to be able to do it the way that we do it over there while we're over here. So we had to make that decision to shut it down this past October. We hated it, but we had to make that decision because you don't want to be in business and you're not making money. So.
And Tress, he said it. I mean, that's exactly what I was about to say. You got to make sure there's a need first. Make sure that it will be sustainable. It's just funny. That's what I'm looking at trying to do right now. Scale G's Clippers to see how or what approach I want to take with that. I really like the idea of the whole adding the health component to it, because there's just still way too many African-American men. I'm going to African-American men first. There's way too many African-American men dying at such a high rate from preventable illnesses. So if these guys are going to the barbershop, why not bring the position to them?
Yeah.
You know, so I want to normalize having health clinics in barbershops. So I'll see how I can scale that.
Expansion for me would be building a team of people that they know what you don't know, and becoming systems dependent. Been in business 34 years, and being system dependent instead of people dependent. Once we got those video documentations and things in place, we could just roll people out. You know, especially if I was hiring a lot of folks from right out of college, and they might be an intern while they're in college, and then come on full time as a full-time employee or whatever. If you got the blanks there, all you got to do is just fill in the blanks and follow the systems. You know, just like a McDonald's or whatever, they got a whole bunch of systems. be system dependent and not people dependent.
Great. We've got a little time. We can take some questions from the audience. Yes.
I have a question for, I'm sorry, I did that
I have a question for Mr. Highsmith. Wanted to know how you doing with recycling with your packaging, and then I guess the other one is more like, how did you settle on packaging? Because that would be the last thing that I would think of as going into a business, either a barber or a hairdresser or owning a restaurant. So how do you find that niche that is outside of, and there's nothing wrong with it, but outside of what normally most African Americans would go into business for?
Okay, good questions. The first is recycling. I did not mention it, but we were one of the nation's largest users of recycled boxboard. 95% of every package we made was on a recycled boxboard. So if you look at Tide was a recycled boxboard. The Crest toothpaste on recycled boxboard. So I hope that addresses your question. We used about 200,000 tons a year of recycled boxboard. Okay? Now, with respect to your question, as I mentioned, I wanted to be an entrepreneur from the time I was an undergraduate, but I didn't know what area. And I went to work for a large global packaging company, and I spent a decade there. That's where I got exposed to an industry that I didn't know existed. And I became fascinated with it. How you work with big companies who have ideas for products, and those products need to be packaged. And they have things that they want that package to do on the shelf. And I got to work with some incredible people who were package designers, package engineers. Over the years, I was at manufacturing plants that made packages, so it was an area that I was exposed to, right? So one of the things I tell kids today, when I look at internship opportunities, particularly in college, go places that you are not necessarily familiar with, because it's going to expose you to areas that you don't know about. So I was just fortunate to end up getting a job for a packaging company that exposed me to this $30 billion industry that I never knew existed.
We can do another question. Yes, ma'am.
So,
Just a minute.
So aside from G's Clippers, it sounds like you guys all expanded beyond just being a black business. In order for you to be able to expand and grow, you gotta be able to hit every customer beyond just our culture. So how did you do that, and how did you make it where you weren't just only known as a black business for all of your, to be able to expand on all of your contracts? And I only say, with the exception of G's Clippers, because of course, you are cutting black man's hair. But I would assume you're even trying to, maybe you're trying to go outside with the idea of doing the medical piece within all barbershops. But I'm interested. I don't want to just be known as a black business. I want to be able to go beyond that.
Well, most people don't even know that I am a black business. You know, and I sell to the Fortune 500, Fortune 100 corporations those products. I do have certifications that say that I am, you know, a woman-owned company, a minority-owned company, small business and that type of thing. And you can leverage those certifications and stuff or whatever, but we're not just a black business or whatever. You know, we're a business that does distribution on a national level, and just now through partnering with people, like he said, you know, doing acquisitions or whatever, I've found that I've been able to expand by expanding my circle of influence and partners, you know.
And I would say through G's Clippers, I think my clientele is probably made up of probably 5% non-black, you know, but my business is really, I really tried my best to focus on bringing resources to the African American community as far as growing African American community as much as I possibly can in a positive way. So I'm really focused on African American community, not negating any other race or culture.
I would say this, I'll never forget, we were working and the restaurant was open, and, we were by Marquette, we're by, different areas near West Side. I believe professionalism, if you're professional and people love what they're tasting, in our case, we're just country cooking. We have people coming from Marquette, students are coming from Arkansas or Tennessee, and they're coming for the Black Eyed Peas, they're not coming because we're African American, they're coming because that's where they can find the food that they're used to. But I'll never forget, we were working and working, it was busy, we were so happy. We looked up, and I kid you not, to all my Caucasian, Hispanic brethren and sisters in the room, there was not one African American in our lobby, and it was full of all Caucasian people. And I stopped, and we got to whispering. It was a moment. It was a moment, because a lot of times people think soul food, black, no, it's food, it's country cooking. People eat what we like. I eat Chinese food. I eat Indian food. And why wouldn't other people want to also eat what we sell?
Good. I think society kind of labels us sometimes when they see us, and we try to you just have to correct them. I remember being interviewed, I think it was on ABC or somewhere, I don't remember. It's like, how does it feel being a black-owned business? I said, I'm a business, I just happen to be black. So our thing is, everybody's not gonna be your customer, I don't care what. But if you serving a quality product and or service, if you treating people with dignity and respect, anybody would have a brain that like nice stuff, they're gonna come to your establishment, no matter what you selling or serving or providing. So my biggest thing is always, and my team is big on it, provide excellence, provide consistency, be accountable for what we do. Martians are coming in and get a latte. I mean that. And before I get off, my content creator getting on me. Follow us at Sip and Savor Chicago if you got Instagram. You'll be able to keep up with all the stuff we do, mental health, cigar smokeouts, wine tasting, drunken spelling bee, we do it all. Because we got liquor license at some of them. But yeah, on that matter, some stuff you can't control what people label you as, but if they do it in your face, just try to let them know. Don't put me in a box.
Hello, my name is Penny McGee, and I love being an entrepreneur, and I just want to say, what do you do for self-care for everyone on the panel?
I'll be brief. There's some sharp glasses, sister. I'm the glasses dude, so yeah. For self-care, matter of fact, how long ago was that, Whitney? I took my whole staff to a real high-end hotel. What was that? The Waldorf or whatever. 4-day spa, massage and all that. So every once in a while, we try to go out as a group and get health care. And for me, myself, we just did a boot camp at one of our coffee houses. We had a professional trainer come in, and before we opened, customers was allowed to come in for free and try to get rid of some pounds. IG again is Sip and Savor, SIPANDSAVOR, Chicago.com. Did I do okay?
There's no .com.
No .com. Just Sip and Savor, Chicago. You can tell. I rely on my millennials.
Hand them the mic next time.
My millennials run my company, trust me.
Honestly, I like to be alone, and I love to pray. I do. I like, people say meditate. I be praying.
Come on.
I be having whole conversations. God, please, Jesus, will help us. We've been dragged in social media before. That's another whole thing. You have to be able to withstand stuff. So I have to pray. And I also love hanging out with my girls. My friends, they keep me, they say, Angie, come on, let's just go. And that really helps me to keep that strength and keep that, that peace.
I have two things. One, my mental health therapist just happened to be a client of mine and one of my best friends. So I talk to her about so many things. And me and her husband is really good friends as well. So the other thing I do to bring peace is smoke my cigar. I am a cigar smoker, and I run marathons, so I have a great balance. But I heard it said that it's hard to be stressed the heck out and smoking a cigar at the same time. It just don't go together.
Well, I used to ski a lot, downhill skiing. I am one of the founders of the Ebony Ice Ski Club, which has been in existence for 35 years. And they are part of the National Brotherhood of Skiers, which is an organization that is the second largest organized ski organization, second only to the Olympics. So there's people of color that have been skiing for over 50 years, started by a gentleman in Chicago and in Detroit. And I did a lot of downhill skiing. I'm still associated with the club and everything, and I don't do as much skiing anymore. But I love that, and I love making and exposing young people and people of color, young people of color and young people to the snow sports. And then I like traveling and spas, of course. We love the spas. And smooth jazz. I like doing a lot of concerts and traveling to smooth jazz concerts.
Would you give our panel a hand? Tremendous panel. And I appreciate all the comments. It's superb, just superb. To close this out, I'd like to introduce Gregory Martin, who serves as the Center Director for the Milwaukee Small Business Development Center. The Small Business Development Center, as most of you know, is part of UW-Milwaukee School of Continuing Education and provides services and support for existing businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs in Milwaukee and the surrounding areas. And prior to this, Greg owned and operated Nina's Food Market in the city of Milwaukee with his family for over 20 years. And he led that organization in their growth from a single location and 15 employees to 6 locations with over 600 employees. Mr. Martin.
It's been a wonderful event, and on behalf of the entire staff of the School of Continuing Education, I would like to thank all the panelists that have participated this afternoon or this evening that we're in now. Please give them another round of applause. I also would like to thank our keynote speaker, Mr. Colton Highsmith, for his inspirational speech. Mr. Claiborne Benson for giving us all a little history lesson. And our Masters of Ceremony, Mr. Ray Allen, for leading us through this wonderful. I would also like to again recognize our sponsor, Tommy G. Thompson Center for Public Leadership, for all their support, assistance, and without them, this event could not have taken place. The University of Wisconsin School of Continuing Education and the Wisconsin Small Business Development Center would like to provide you with a special gift for all those who have attended. Please scan the QR code that you see on the screen for a guide to helping you start your small business. And please know that the Small Business Development Center is here to help you through this journey. On a closing note, immediately following this event, we will have a networking opportunity in the lobby, and we will be able to sample some of Daddy's Soul Food, delicious food. So thank you all for coming, and have an enjoyable rest of your evening. Thank you.